Welcome everyone to Heart Talk, coming to you live from Kota Kinabalu in Sabah in Malaysia. Whichever part of the world that you're joining us from, I want to welcome you. This is Heart Talk with Dr. Charles Lee. If you have not dropped in and been part of us and been with company like us, I want you to help. Please press that subscribe button. I know it's past Christmas, so still I want to hear those bells jingle, and I can promise you, you will never leave after a Heart Talk discussion or conversation without feeling all empowered and fired up for the rest of the day. Now, you know, when we talk about heart-to-heart conversations, these are matters of the heart. It's about matters of life. Everybody wants to be successful. And I've always said this, that invitations can change your life. How you respond to an invitation can change the course of your life. And so today we're going to talk about a very important topic, which has been my, been occupied the room that I live in with myself. It has been a partner that I've carried around every day and every time of my life, working for the last 40 years. It's like sin crouching at the door. It's called self-doubt. And it shows up whenever you don't want it to show up. And then you'll realize that over years and years, it's taken its residence in the heart. So we all go through the emotions of self-doubt, lack of self-confidence. We have limiting beliefs. We always look for external validation. It can ultimately hurt you and hurt the people around you. And there is a loss of direction and purpose in life. I know that I have struggled with that, and it can be quite uncomfortable and sometimes painful. But I remember years ago seeing the movie called Ghostbusters. Today we have got Self-Doubt Busters. And my guest today, her name is Sue Wilburn. She's a career coach, and she's affectionately known as the Slayer of Self-Doubt. And her modus operandi is this: your strengths are your brand. And so it's taken years and years of working in the marketplace to come up with that band of slogan that can, catapult you to a new future and a new take in life. So I want you to join me as we welcome Sue Wilburn, coming to us live from Knoxville in Tennessee. And let's learn from her how to put this self-doubt next door so it doesn't turn up in our own homes. Here we go. So welcome, Sue. Come and join me. Hi.
Hi, Charles. How are you?
I'm good. It's let me see. It's 10:05 in the morning here in Malaysia, and it will be probably 9:05 p.m. in Knoxville, Tennessee, on a Thursday night.
That's right.
And it's lovely to see you. Now I know we're having a little bit of technical problems here because a bit of a lag, but we'll get through it, and we're not going to let self-doubt take over.
That's right.
So we are on top of it. So once again, welcome to Heart Talk. Thank you for giving me this time. There's so much to talk about. There's so much of a conversation to have with the one and only Sue Wilburn. And if the name is not Sue, then what else can it be? So we're going to have some fun tonight. I was reading your modus operandi or operandi. You're never too old to do what you want to do. You just have to rise up and do it. And I'm bringing you to a point where both of us can kind of like shake hands and dance the Tennessee waltz. And that is what is called the midlife crisis. And I don't like the word crisis because in medical terms, it reminds me of one zone that we all need to keep away, which is called the red zone. Because in the whole hospital, that's the only zone, which there's a crisis situation that's happening there. So William Bridges is an author who wrote the book called Transition, Making Sense of Life's Changes. And so I want to take you with me on a waltzing trip to this place called the neutral zone. You see, he talked about three phases in transition. And the first phase is called the endings, where we have finished a particular phase in life. And then there is the neutral zone, where we don't know what to do, and we're deciding what to do. And then comes the new beginning.
Yes.
So the midlife crisis, or whatever happens in our lifespan, is usually in the neutral zone, where we are neutral. It's like you have parked your car. It's neither moving forward or you're not reversing. It's just stalling. And it's on end,
Yes.
neutral. Now, I want to take us there because when you talk about the midlife crisis, you are too old is self-doubt. And it's written everywhere, even from the time we go to college and from the time, there are always doubts that we will not live to our full potential. We can't pass this, we can't get that, and it's worse still when it all bubbles up to an age where you felt it yourself at 60, 61. You were the vice president of human resources for 12 years, and you had now faced a decision, and I'm going to quote in your own words. Let me read it to put our visitors and our guests on the right phase and platform in these walls that we're going to do together. As a woman in my midlife, I was faced with the opportunity to decide to stay the course and finish my career in similar work environments, employers, and roles, or I could take the time to reflect on what I truly was good at and wanted to do. Number two, identify my options in every detail of my next career steps. Number three, specify my absolutes. And number four, elevate myself to the career I was meant to do. And I wrote down these 4 pinnacles of transition in the neutral zone. Reflect, identify, specify, elevate. And the mnemonics are R.I.S E. And it gave birth to the R.I.S E Consulting. Now, I want to congratulate you because the 3 words that I live by is He is risen.
Ah,
And nothing happens if you're lying down, and nothing happens if you're sitting on the couch. You got to rise up.
that's
So I
right.
want you to help us and take us there to that point in time. So that
Okay.
many, I know, and myself too, that's the reason why I sourced you out from LinkedIn, was what do we do at this stage in life? You've reached the neutral zone, the car is stalling, the lights are just saying stop, and you want to press go forward or you want to go back, reverse to the old life. So take us to that point and let's just start to learn how you handle that, and we'll go from
Okay.
there.
Absolutely. I'd be glad to. So, as you said earlier, I was the vice president of a children's hospital, and I'd done it for 12 years and was very happy, so I thought, in my career. And there came a point where we got new leadership, and my contract wasn't re-signed. And there I was at 61, still had children. And what am I going to do? Who's going to hire me at this age? And the next week, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I had 2 blows, and in normal circumstances or in usual circumstances, I would have thrown my hands up and went into a deep depression. That's just how I would have dealt with it. Instead, something reached inside of me. I think I shared with you when I was sharing the story, I believe it had to have been a divine intervention, but something said to you, if you were coaching someone, what would you tell them? And I said, I would say, go get someone to help you. You can't do this alone. And because I was kind of a self-help junkie anyway, I was Googling and reading and so on and so forth. And I upon a life coach. And I was particularly excited about this life coach because she said her target was midlife women. And that resonated with me so great because that's exactly how I felt branded. This old, used woman, but what is she going to do now? And honestly, I'm ashamed to even say it. I was more concerned with the loss of the job than I was the diagnosis of breast cancer. Isn't that interesting?
It
And
is.
Yeah. And through working through her program and her encouragement, I saw through this process of reflection, identification, specifying, that I saw the way to elevate myself was to not do what I had been doing, because I was doing it because I thought that was the right step. I kind of think of my life as unintentional, which I believe is why I chose the word intentional last year, because everything was on. And I thought I was supposed to climb the career ladder, so I climbed the career ladder. And when I realized that that's not what I wanted to do, and reflect on what I was good at, because more times than not, what we're good at is our strengths, and it's the thing that people are going to see that is uniquely you. And that's really what I'm trying to help see. It's brand you to them. What sets you apart, what makes you different, and makes you right for the position. I actually believe a lot of people aren't right for their jobs because they are not fitted to it. And it's not aligned with their core values. And that's what I discovered. And I got so excited about it. I wanted to share it. I wanted to tell others about it. And one thing led to another. And I would talk to one person, and then someone said, well, why didn't you try to coach? And I'm like, I should coach. And, it's just like baby steps. Like you said, you're in neutral and they're into first gear, and start trying and dabbling. And before you know it, I was doing it, and I was building a website to clients, and I was making money. It was so exciting for me. But I think I shared with you, I probably never make a lot of money because I actually give away a lot of my services. I just get jazzed up about taking someone who has lost sense of their value and their worth, and they've allowed it to be dictated or defined from external validation instead of internal validation. And that was me. So much so that self-doubt actually self-sabotaged me in that career.
Absolutely.
And when I look back, I see slow deterioration that was happening. And I think it was because I was in a certainly a role that challenged me, and there's nothing wrong with being challenged, but I was in a role that was not in alignment with strengths and who I believe my purpose is. Right. And I just felt like I needed to tell others about this, because there's too many people let their jobs or their bosses make them feel like they're nobody, like they're not valued. Now, I'm not saying that that's exactly what I need. I did enough of that on my own. I had enough self-doubt. But there's a lot of individuals that just can't muster that. I've been fortunate. I believe I've been an optimist most of my life. But if there was anything that I allowed to get to me, it was my own self-talk.
Right.
And
I mean,
there's nothing.
this is a wonderful start to this conversation, because you were able to come to a diagnosis that it was not just the breast cancer that can happen at any time in anyone's life, but there was something very much more to that, and that was the whole personal embodiment of self. And this is where the medical part comes in, because many of us have lived life without looking at certain faculties in that whole life script, as I call it, that at some stage in life become therapeutic to our own self. And like I've always said, your body is the best pharmacy. We spend all the time taking pills, but if we know how to treat, the best pharmacy in the world is your body. It knows how to heal itself. And it's very interesting that you mentioned that, you found that coaching, and I'm very interested to know, number one, there are two C's that you mentioned. One is
Mhm.
coaching was told to you that it's going to be therapeutic for you,
Yes.
just as much as my podcasting on Hard Talk is so much more therapy for me, to
Yes.
learn as much as I can from you. The other C that you mentioned was core values,
Yes.
and the alignment to your heart and over the years. Now, just very briefly, tell us, Sue. I mean, you've been 12 years in human resources, you've been a producer, a TV, you've been a personality, you are bigger than life. And and a lot of people have made core values as a marketplace stuff. I mean, it's so common. Everybody throws in words, I want to be this, I want to be authentic, I want to be, it's all, to me, it's all just a storyline.
Yes.
What were you challenged with those core values that you found, hey, I might be on neutral, but the traffic light is red, it's not
Yes.
green.
Yes. Yes.
And so take us there to what were you challenged deep within you that today you're able
Yes.
to live you're living from your core values, because in the heart, core values are
Yes.
not in the mind. Core
That's
values
right.
take their residence in the heart, and which I call the abundance of life. So go
Yes.
ahead. So
Absolutely.
just give us a window into that area of your
Okay.
life.
Be glad to. So, one of the things that I think people struggle with is knowing the difference between a skill and a value. So, I was skilled. I could certainly do the job and the work of a vice president of resources, but it didn't always line up with my value. One of the first things that we have to do when business economic times are hard is look to the greatest expense in an organization. What is that? That's people. Well, that goes against everything I believe in. I would rather get rid of everything else but the people. Now, I followed what I had to do, but it was hard. But when I did it, at least I said to myself, I'm going to do it with humanity in mind, and they're going to get as much help as they can, and so on and so forth. But it doesn't negate that it was not my what I would want to, live and do every day. Numbers. I can't stand numbers. I like words and feelings and strategy and vision. And
Yeah,
while
that's you.
yeah, I certainly like dollars and numbers and cents, but to have to spend time and focus and saying, okay, what benefit is costing us too much? Do I need to cut that benefit? Do we need to delete the match in that 401k? All of those things. A noble, noble profession for someone, but not necessarily the strength that I had. And here's what's so foolish. I once was in a role where I was the director of organizational development for a hospital. And really, when I look back, that was my finest, because I was working. I mean, how can you not get excited about helping children, right? There's such
Sure.
a mission, such a mission to be behind. And I was helping the people who were taking care of those children. I mean, to me, there's nothing greater than, thank God, literally, that we have people who want to be doctors and nurses and housekeepers and infection control people and quality people and quite frankly, the finance people in hospitals. But not everybody wants to do that. But I thought I got sucked up in the dream or the mantra that you keep going up that ladder. So when I realized, as I was going through that 6 months, when you're sitting getting chemo infusion, you got a lot of time to think and a lot of time to process. And slowly but surely, my priorities started changing. Now, I will say I'm very strong in my faith, and I felt like I was going to get through this round of cancer. I'm not going to tell you it might not come back, but I felt very strongly about that. And I really committed to being healthier. I actually hired a fitness coach. I'm now actually more fit than I probably have been ever in my life.
Well
I
done.
I weigh less than I did probably when I was a senior. And it's because I realized what a miracle our bodies are, right? And I've realized, Sue, you cannot take your health for granted. That is the real. And so with that, feeling good physically and feeling conscientious about making sure doing things my values are, my purpose in life. I just felt like I wanted to spread the good news, if you will. I wanted others, because nothing broke my heart more than an employee who was trying so very hard to succeed and they could not get out of the way of their own self. They were sabotaging. And we don't have much time in the workplace to deal with what was really harming them. Very, very few times is someone being addressed about their skills. It's more about the soft skills. You know, they're not a good team player. They are argumentative. They don't have very good customer service skills. You can find many, many times that it started within. They don't like themselves. They don't like what they're doing. And it manifests itself in different ways. And we really can, like I said earlier, self-sabotage. And it's revolutionary when you realize it.
No, I think that, I mean, I register everything you say because you're speaking to me. And, we all have this play where, you have given so much of yourself. Like in the medical field, it's a service industry.
Yes.
And having served for 40 years in the marketplace as a medical doctor, I was never trained or never had the window of an opportunity to actually re-energize and renew my own energy. And this is the biggest mistake I have learned and seen in the marketplace. And that is all of us are working, either you're working for finance, which is only human, that you have a paycheck to keep you living and pay the bills, but at the cost of not being able to, we talk about renewable energy from within.
There you go.
All right. So when you're talking about green energy, I'm talking about green means life.
Ah,
How do you tap into all the faculties of God-given capacities that we have to continue every day, moment by moment, to renew those batteries so they don't burn out?
yes,
And you
yes.
don't end up with mental exhaustion, which happened to me because we are parents. We put our children through their school life, mental life, college life, you name it, and by the time you've reached the end of your line, and it's so short left. and,
Yes.
and it's no more tug of war, and the biggest tug of war is with yourself. It's you
Yes.
against you. So
Yes.
did you, when you reached that stage, Sue, was
Mhm.
there a burnout within you?
I believe that yes, I think that's fair to say. I was tired of getting up and doing and never finishing things, in when you're in an office setting, and particularly at the level that I was, you never finished anything. And that was frustrating to me. Or you would you was trying to influence a new project to be adopted, but there wasn't enough money. Or you had to deal with leaders that violated a law or a policy or so on and so forth. And I've been doing that for 30 years. I mean, I was in HR in general for 30 years, but I got to the point where it just didn't. And I don't, because I want to be careful about this, because I think HR is extremely important and actually an overlooked discipline in most businesses. But it got to the point where I thought, does this really matter? I mean, and I almost feel it's unfair, because when you do have a diagnosis like breast cancer, I mean, it wakes you up, right? I mean, it
Sure.
really wakes you up. And I had lost my best friend 2 years prior to breast cancer. And I remember seeing as she was in her final days, she would relish sunshine, leaves, and the colors as they changed colors. And I have a good friend that's in hospice, and he has shared that people aren't, and you've heard this before, but people are not talking about work in their final days.
That's right.
They're talking about usually the people that they love, and
Yes,
just
absolutely.
fascinating nature and this world. And it's just unfortunate, but here's what I believe. I believe that each of the phases that we go through, I believe God designed it that way, so that
Absolutely.
when we do get to the final days of our life, even if we're completely healthy and we just drop over one day, it's okay. We're ready. I believe that's why teenagers get so difficult. It's because we're excited that when they leave the home instead of missing them.
Yeah, true. I know
I
what you
say that.
mean. I hear you loud and clear, Sue, because I want to congratulate you for one point, and that is if I have a guest now listening to you, the very fact that you said that you had reached burnout is a big plus for a coach, because there are a lot of people who are hiding under the closets and under the table, and they don't want to come to be brutally honest with themselves and say, I felt I reached my end. And
Yes.
and they want to go on this phase of coaching others when they can't own up to say that they really felt. And when I say burnout, I mean in a good sense. I'm a guy who treats burns. So,
Okay. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
even though that's my specialty, but I was burning out on the inside, and
Yes.
and that sometimes is all because of this self denial, which is the twin sister of self doubt.
Absolutely.
Because when you go into the default mode,
Uh-huh.
that self doubt and then you self denial, nah, it's not me, all that kind of thing, it becomes a chainsaw that actually can cut you into half.
Ah,
And yeah, and I know because I've got a scar on my chest from open heart bypass surgery. So
oh
I
my.
know. So I
Yeah.
know I
You know.
know that if anybody is out there and I'm listening to them talking, I told them, hey, you haven't walked the whole mile yet.
Yeah.
You're just 100 yards from the line you started.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I want to congratulate you because at the end of the day, we want to set. There's a beautiful saying where Ralph Emerson said this. He said, "Don't go to where the path may lead, but go to one where no one else has traveled and leave a trail."
I like that. I like that.
And I think what you are doing is trailblazers, meaning that you are lighting a trail for someone who has never been on that path before. And suddenly the leaves are greener, the sun's shining, and the path looks so bright, and you feel so alive.
Yes.
And I think that's a gift of turning around. The red lights turn to green, and there you go. It's a new beginning.
Absolutely.
And I think, and I want to tell you that there's definitely a divine thing. Now, let me come back to the first of 1, 2, 3, 4. Reflect. So
Okay.
you took time to reflect. Now, reflection to me, a lot of people talk about reflection, but they keep changing the mirrors. Okay. So today they have one mirror and they're reflecting on something. Tomorrow there's another mirror that comes up. It's the same mirror. The point is how far you want to see yourself in,
Yeah.
and without being narcissistic. And so when you did that reflection, were you looking at the good points, the sad points, the bad points, or what? Or
Well,
all?
I'll tell you, my first answer would be all of the above. I
There
looked
you go.
for all of it. But what I learned was what was important was looking for patterns.
Yes.
What did how did I make decisions? Were they based from emotion, obligation, convenience? I looked at the things that I liked in every job, and I focused on what they were around. What did they surround? Then the things that I didn't like, I looked to see if they, was there a commonality there? And what I found when I processed this with my clients, their eyes open. They've never stopped to think about, oh my gosh, why do I keep going in that direction? Because I'm always going to have to do that task that I can't stand. but they never stop to ask, or we get so, and I have to fault some of it to the marketplace, and certainly HR is a good portion of that. We really need to start focusing much more on skills than what someone's job title was and what their college degree was. And I believe with the shortage of at least what seems to be a shortage of interested parties to work in certain areas, we're going to have to make those compromises. But I don't think they're going to be bad compromises. I think it'll be good for society in general, and it'll bring even more diversity into the workplace.
Absolutely.
We have to I mean, you just can't keep hiring the same 3 kinds of people and expect something to be different.
Absolutely. And I've got a prescription for that. I call it skills before pills.
I like that.
Because we end up, by the time we've burned out all the skills, we start taking the pills in to make up for what we've lost with the skills.
Absolutely.
And I think that's pretty interesting there. Identify my options. So here you go.
Yeah.
And sometimes patterns can be shifting patterns. They keep changing.
Yes.
And that's the player of life. Life's script is they don't keep the goalpost straight. The goalpost keeps moving.
It does. And you've got to get good at flexing with that. And I believe that's sometimes the challenge. And it's just a coincidence that it's older employees, because many times older employees are also the most tenured employees. And the more tenured you get, the more stuck in your ways you get. And resistance to change and all the technology I can remember losing nurses because of the electronic medical record. They were maybe 3 or 4 years away from retirement, and they were like, nope, I'm checking out now. And I always said there's a doctor's thesis in here somewhere. What's that magical tenure number that I start to, just live in that neutral zone? Because it happens. We get bored. We sometimes we get resentful, and you can see it in any organization I've worked at. You can see how the tenure and the satisfaction goes. The first 5 years, employees generally are extremely happy. Then they start to dip around the 7, 8, 9 because they're not getting maybe the promotion or the pay raises they thought they would, and then they kind of go down. And I think those 35 to 40 to 50, those are tough years because we're working parents. We're trying to burn candles at both ends. And what's so ironic is when they start to get toward retirement and they can see it, that goes right back up. They're satisfied again. And youth really is wasted on the young, I guess. But again, I think there's intention of God's plan here of how he phased out. But I think the piece that I would be remiss if I didn't share is it really comes down to a couple things. You must grow personal accountability. Nobody is going to change your life but you.
Absolutely.
You can't change others. You can't, but I can change how I react to others. I can develop boundaries. I can ask more questions. Many of my clients, I'll say, they'll be upset because they don't have a college degree and the job they want to know has a college degree. Well, what's keeping you from getting that college degree? Okay, I know it costs money. Let's talk about other things you could do that could build your skills. Just that whole process of taking accountability for the results, either not happening the way I want them to happen, or I kind of drive that car, toward that. The other thing is you must stay to be a continual learner. You have I have found the more you know what you don't know, the more successful you will be.
Absolutely.
When we are unconsciously incompetent, and hubris can take place, and just absolute, I guess, working in a zone that nobody, we're not looking out. We've got a shield on, if you will. But I've just noticed that the people who really have humility and take accountability for who they are and why they choose to do things. And it really comes down to what I've tried to tell people is it's not about right or wrong. Is it effective?
Yeah.
Particularly women, we get accused oftentimes in the workplace of being too emotional. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with emotion and passion and feeling. In fact, I would submit to you that many women are found to be better leaders because of that emotion. But we have to know how to control it and manage it. And is it effective? And that's something I had to learn and struggle with and realize that it was not expressing how you feel doesn't always the answer.
Absolutely.
And you have to take that self-accountability then and come up with a different solution, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, you have peeled off the layers of the onion as we go into the core. It's like, you take off all the layers and then you're getting into the core, the epicenter of what life is all about. For me, it's
Yes.
about visioneering. It's about the engineered engine that takes you on a course of why do you get out of bed every day? That must be a reason. And for me, in my life, I mean, it's vision. And
Yes.
because, the scriptures say without a vision, people will perish. And you talked about change, and you cannot change what you do not know. And so
That's
that's where
right.
the whole learning faculty, learning is for life, and life is for learning. And the moment you
Yes.
think you've reached there, that's where Parkinson's within inverted commas comes in. And
Yeah.
all the, the whole called mental stuff that I think it should be looked at is mental wealth because you will
Yeah.
never dry up. There's always an interest that you're paid for in life. And that's the wealth that's in the mind.
Absolutely. And that reminds me of something that you and I talked about recently is that confidence comes from the doing.
There you
The
go.
challenge is, can you get yourself brave enough to, or even just open enough to go ahead and take that risk? Hey, you may make a mistake. My daughter laughs at me because I've really had to learn a lot about social media and technology to run this online business. And she one day said, "You know what, Mom? I think the problem with your generation is you guys think you're going to break something." She said, "Just get out there, start touching buttons. Nothing's going to happen." And I guess she's right.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, true. But
I,
at the end of the day, wisdom is something that you learn on the road, and
yeah, I
and
like that.
yeah, it's on the road. You can't just sit there and get wisdom, and you just learn it as you go along, and life becomes real when someone gives you a blow on your face. And when you
Yep,
have that blow on your face and you hit it, you know what pain is all about. And I
absolutely.
think there are a lot of people out there who are coaching, and I see all these leaderships and all these jargon that's thrown out in the marketplace. And when I looked at my own life, and I'd never heard of the word mindfulness before until 2 years ago. I've never
Really?
heard of this word manifestation before until 2 years ago. All I knew was facelifts and breasts and boob jobs.
That was your little circle there.
Yeah, and talk about the circle of life.
Yeah.
And so then I realized, I was doing a surgery with a neurosurgeon the other day, and he was taking out a brain tumor. So I was called in to close the whole scalp and do what's called a rotation scalp. And I looked over his shoulder and I said, "Where's the mind?" And he looked at me and said, "What?" And so, you can look at the brain and take a piece of it out, but till today, the mind is so still a fascinating frontier of medicine for me. that
Oh,
we will never understand it until you meet the creator of the universe, who has the mind to keep everything in order. Can you imagine? I'm amazed when I meet with neuroscientists and I interview them and they don't believe that there is a God. And then I say, how the heck is this whole world in order? Why does the sun go around this way? Why does the moon this way? If there's nobody out there in order, you and I will be
right.
in trouble, man, be a mess. And so I think this is where you move from reflection to identification and then specification. Like when you want to buy a computer, you look at the specifications. What does this computer do? And so when you look
Yes.
at your own life and you want to rise up, then be specific on where
Right.
your absolute talents are.
Yes.
And the end of the day is elevate myself to elevation, a kind of a call out sign to step up and
Yes.
and
Yes.
and get on to a level that you've not seen before. And so I love that mantra. You're never too old to do the twist.
That's right. You may feel like it, but you're not too old to try.
You're not too old to try, and it depends which music you play. And
Yes.
so a lot of myths are out there in the marketplace, and I'm sure you deal with that, where people have to reinvent themselves, and there's so many myths that you can't do this, you can't do that, roadblocks that people put up. And I think that this is something very important. So you haven't got you said intentional was 2022 road a sticker on your car.
Yes. Yes. I think I know what 23 is going to be. I've
Nice.
de- I've decided it's going to be open.
Open.
I'm open. I want to
Nice.
be open to new things, open to new ideas, open to trying. So
This
I
is
think
beautiful, beautiful, because a parachute is useless unless it's open.
there you go. Exactly.
Otherwise, you'll just come down like a piece of stone.
Yes.
And the whole concept of mindfulness is openness, cultivating a sense of openness to receive. And I love that. I'm
Such,
trying to come.
you talk about manifestation. Um, it can sound woo woo and, kind of new agey, I guess, when you talk about that. But I really think it's an energy of your awareness, what makes you attractive to someone that might want to partner or work with you or so on and so forth. And when we're open to that, we don't miss those opportunities. And I think that's how manifestation works then.
Yes,
When we are not open, we're not seeing those opportunities. We
absolutely.
don't look, we probably don't look like we want to be addressed. And so we did, I just, I've been reading I always say it backwards because it's the War of Art. I really highly recommend it. It's the gentleman that wrote The Legend of Bagger Vance, which
Uh-huh.
is a movie. He wrote the book, and it's all about how we deal with resistance and that phenomena of resistance, and that is so natural to us as humans to resist change, resist challenge, the unknown, you name it. We can have an excuse for why we can't do it.
But
And
that's the child crying out, "It's mine!" No, would you stop?
yeah,
That resistance is all in the DNA from when we were young. Um,
it must be because it comes very natural to us.
that's right. And when I wrote up this whole concept of MindFlow Ergonomics, was really to bring in the energy that is absolute within ourselves. And
Yes.
ergonomics, ergon meaning the Greek word for work or labor, and nomics is
Okay.
the laws of work, the ethics behind work, and how do you make your life efficient? You see, it's like an engine that's efficient, and so for me, I've come up with these 7 zones that are all the time working from the moment you get out of bed, and your life script is to make sure that they are working efficiently, because one is always interacting with the other, and I believe that that's what I missed out in my life. I was so professional in what I was doing in my direction that I
Of
missed out the
course.
whole God-given capacities of tapping
Yeah.
into all the different faculties that you and I have.
Yes.
And now when you're turning 70 and you look back, yeah, it's to help another person run all the way.
Hmm.
And I want to
Yeah.
just thank you for that, because it's so beautiful to realize that there's so much I could have done and you could have done, and it's never too late and you're never too old.
That's right. That's right. It's only an excuse. So
Okay, so as we come towards the end of this beautiful session with you, I hope you have enjoyed yourself. There's so
I
much that we
have.
have learned from you, and I think that life is a journey, and we've got the author of life and the architect of life to write it for us. It's not over yet.
That's right.
And I think that this is something that is so encouraging to know that I remember the song in the 1960s by the Four Tops, which was called "Just Walk Away, Rennie." Just walk away, Rennie. I'm not coming home with you tonight. Like, all right, Charles, go on and do it, and I'm going to stay back. And now, before we end, the career that you want is looking for you.
Yes.
Do you know the way to San Jose?
That's right.
And so, how do people get in touch with you?
Yes. Um, they can certainly go to my website, uriseconsulting.com. They can visit me out on my LinkedIn page. U-Rise Consulting has a page, and then I have a personal page, Sue Wilburn. Or they can even email me, Sue at uriseconsulting.com. So I would love to, I always like to have I call them self-doubt slaying sessions,
Yes, I
and
know.
they're complimentary. So, in fact, I've actually found that sometimes there's been individuals that gained a great deal just from that one session. So, I always say, give me a call and we can explore. And if it's something I don't think I can help you with, I'll let you know that. But
Yeah,
um,
it's
I
amazing.
the thing that I'm most pleased with is that I think these individuals are walking away finding much more than just the next job. They've grown to really understand themselves better and appreciate and value themselves, know their own worth, if you will.
Yeah, I think this is what I wrote MindFlow Ergonomics about, is finding your own self, and
Yes.
coming home to yourself, and you realize I didn't know there were so many rooms inside. And each one has its own aroma of Christ in it, and at the end of the day. So once again, Sue, thank you so much for joining us on Hard Talk.
Oh, you are most
It's
welcome.
it's
Thank you for
been
having
a it's been a very therapeutic session to know that we don't have only done not just Ghostbusters, we also got self-doubt busters,
me. There you
and
go. That's exactly
you're
right.
such a resourceful person. I want to wish you well, and hope that we have a time to get you onto the faculty of MindFlow Ergonomics, because this is something that everybody needs to know, because I know I paid a price for it, for not knowing. and
Ah,
uh, and by
that's exactly.
knowing more about yourself, you become more efficient, life becomes more profitable, you perform on a higher level, and at the end of the day, what drives you to get up out of bed?
That's
And
exactly
I
right.
think if it's your job, you've missed it.
Yeah.
But if it's
I
the
look back on
title, if you're looking for the statement at the end which says, "Well done, good and faithful servant," I think that's a life well lived. So,
that's
on that
exactly.
note, I want to say thank you,
Thank
and
you.
once again, God bless.
Okay. Good night.
Good night. And so just stay with me. So, for all of you who have just joined us on Hard Talk, if you've just come in, don't worry, it's been recorded. It'll be on the YouTube site called Hard Talk with Dr. Charles Lee. We've just had 15 minutes of session with the slayer herself of self doubt, Sue Wilburn. And I want to thank her as she tucks in and says good night. We want to say good night to you, Sue. And for all of those of you in this part of the world, have a great morning. And remember, You're not a servant of self doubt, you're a winner and you can take it all. So, once again, we'll talk soon.